Yo soy Rick Rodriguez y esta es mi historia.
Look at there.
No, I'm Rick. It's good to be here. Basically, man, for those of you that don't already know, I live and breathe and sleep music. It's in my system. It's my life. I work in the music business. I've been doing it for over 20 years. There's really never been like a situation where I've never had a beef with God. I grew up in a Christian home. In fact, my first stage was a sanctuary. The first time I ever played in front of anybody was at a church, and I'm sure that's pretty common with a lot of artists or musicians. So I never really have had a beef with God. I've never really questioned anything. My parents, who are actually right here, which is really cool. My mom and dad.
Introduce them.
That's my mom,
Y'all stand up so we can see
Socorro,
what
and my dad, Ricky.
Give them a hand clap.
They came in, and I grew up.
Wait, they came all the way from Brownsville,
South Texas,
South Texas, to be here today.
They surprised me.
And so give them another hand clap. They made the trip. You guys think
Ricky
you drove
Rodriguez.
a long way to be.
Yeah, and they were here on time. So I grew up in a Christian home, and my entire life, my parents are actually the product of tent revival, evangelism, and that sort of thing. So I grew up in a strong Christian home, and I think I've always had to ride that weird wave where Christianity and music kind of clash at some point all the time, because if you're playing a church or kind of like the job that these guys are doing when we come in here and they're doing the praise and worship, there's always going to be that person with that stigma where music is supposed to be done this way if you're doing it for church or if you're doing something for God. So I've always had that kind of a little bit of friction, but in my process, I've had to just keep going. I've had the support of my parents, and even my parents. It took a while for them to understand, like, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I'm into music, and it's a seed that was planted in the church. I remember the day that I was kneeling in church asking God, like, man, I want to be like my dad. I want to be like my brother, my older brother, Homer, man. He was like, I saw him playing drums since I was a little kid. He was playing drums all of his life. He was into music at church. So I remember the day that I sat there and I was like kneeling at church and I was like, God, I want to do music. And I remember the day that person kind of anointed my hands, and they were like, they were speaking something over me, but I was caught up in my thing, like just, I want to do music, and I've always done something music related, and now growing up in the business and spending my life in the business, I've also had that kind of friction sometimes, where some pastors or some churches are like, well, how is he doing this in the secular world, and and then he comes and plays here, and how's that going to project? And honestly, in my mind, and I've like I said, I have the support of my parents, where they see me more as a beacon of light in the darkness, rather than you should be doing this or whatnot. So I do artist management,
and I think that's really important, because it's like, and I said this to you the other day. I said that's your ministry, and it's the thing about us here too. I think at Bridges, is like we believe in doing ministry outside the four walls of the church. And so when God uses you to go out to be a light in the world, but that's the gift that God's put on the inside of you, Rick. And you said you also help bands, and you
I do
touring.
Artist management and artist development and consulting. And actually, one of my boss, my direct boss, is Raul Malo. He's a singer for a popular band called the Mavericks, and those guys. He's not only my boss, he's a really good friend of mine, and I roll with him. I'm his tour manager, so we roll thousands of miles across the country, a lot. Not to mention the miles that they put on with just the Mavericks, but just me and him and I alone, we travel a lot. So, in that moment, like, I'm not sitting there preaching to the guy the whole time or annoying him, which is what I'm supposed to do in the eyes of some people, man. But I think that just getting up in the morning and asking God, hey, just cover this car, be with us. I handle stuff for artists where it's like logistics, so everything from preparing the show weeks in advance to actually getting the artist there, getting the show done, and and then heading on to the next city. So I've always felt like, man, I'm surrounded by a bunch of dudes that are constantly facing something.
Yeah.
If it's not personal, it's with the business, it's with like a venue. but there's always something going on, and I always feel like I always pitch in a little word of encouragement, not annoying, but just
Yeah.
always like, dude, it's gonna be all right, or let's work this out. And I've always been kind of like that problem solver, and that's kind of my job, but also kind of like it's how we were raised, help
Yeah.
a brother
Yeah.
out along the way, being of service. And I've always felt that being of service for God doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to haul around a Bible and go around condemning people, or being
It's just being a light.
yeah, it's just like being a light and letting God know, hey man, I mean, I'm around all these folks, help them out.
Yeah.
I can't do it, but so that's kind of the role I play. I mean, I work in the music business. I do a lot of different things. I wear different hats, but in the midst of all of that, I grew up in church. I'm a true believer. I'm not a preacher. And
Yeah.
I kind of
No.
stray away from that, It's like I stray away from that whole thing, because I think one thing the church has kind of missed along the way is how they approach people that are in the arena that I'm in.
That you're in, yeah.
A lot of people kind of mistakenly want to tell you why you are in the position you're in and what you could have done differently, to be better, rather than telling you, I mean, dude, it's going to be all right.
be
There's
okay.
a God that's bigger than all this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the role that I play, man. I mean, I think I was brought up thinking that there's a God that died for all of our sins. I'm like, dude, this guy died for all of my sins millions of years before I even committed them. I'm like, wow, that's pretty gnarly. Why would I not talk to these cats about it? So that's kind of the approach I get. And, it's been a little bit different sometimes dealing with different people in the church, with the church background, but I still keep going on, man. I mean,
Keep moving, yeah. And that kind of leads us into, when you started going through some stuff, Rick, you just finished a tour. Y'all give him a hand clap. Just kind of sharing a little bit of his background so we can set this up right. And you just finished up a tour with the group you were promoting. And then I think you went on vacation with you and Irma. And this is where it all began, Rick.
yeah, I had just gotten done. We finished the tour for 2022. We wrapped. I dropped my good friend Raul Malo and the Malos. Shout out to them. I dropped them off in D.C. They were doing the Tiny Desk concert for NPR, which is like a big deal. So I dropped them off, and I just headed home. And I was going to take some days off with my wife and just wrap the year, go relax. And we went on this vacation, and we got there that night. The first morning I woke up, I had been having issues with my back. It's not anything. It wasn't anything new. It wasn't like the freak accident part of this is that I woke up one morning, I dropped something, leaned over to pick it up. I heard my back pop, and it was over. I felt the craziest pain I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move it. I couldn't walk it. I didn't want to wake up my wife because I woke up super early saying, hey, I'm going to be up before her and I'm going to have everything ready. And no. So I kind of just lay there thinking it's going to, it'll go away. This is probably the first time it happens. It'll pass. But no, sure enough, it got to the point where I couldn't move and hours were passing. I'm like, wait, I thought it would be over by now. So here we are. My wife calls 911. I couldn't even get out to my car, so we had to call the ambulance. Ambulance takes me. It was the most annoying, like it was crazy pain, something I had never felt before. And I ended up in the ER. We were stuck in, of all places, like Peoria,
You're out of state.
Illinois. Yeah, I was out there just going on vacation. I was supposed to meet my friends and hang out for a little bit, and hang out with old friends from college, from my MTSU years. And we never got to that. I was stuck in the hospital the whole time. Missed my flight. There was an issue with my back that was pretty serious, and they wanted to get me into surgery.
Yeah.
And of course, the manager guy in me that wants to be the problem solver for everybody it was always on. I was always on, and at that point, I even told my wife, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be fine. Let's get out of here, and then come January when the year starts, I'll get back on track. We'll get the surgery
He couldn't
done.
even walk, but he's like, it's going to be fine. Let's get up out of here.
I was laying in the hospital bed still thinking my plan is this.
Yeah.
And so I have my plan because that's my life. I plan things for people, and I schedule things, and this is the process, and getting to the end point of that means that you succeeded.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was stuck in the hospital, and it was really really hardcore.
Yeah, yeah.
It was bad. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, and the pain was so heavy that I I think even at some point my wife started getting worried because she was like, your face looks different. You don't look like the same person. Something's up, and it was that pain. I think I was
Yeah.
going through these mental moments when and I wasn't aware of it. So then, we were stuck there. And the crazy thing about this moment when I'm in the hospital and I am going through the craziest pain that I've ever felt, somehow I got stuck in a hospital room with another cat, and there was a curtain that separated us, so we were both hearing each other just whining the whole time. And it got really weird because I was like, wait, why are we sharing a room? But anyway, it got to one day I was dealing with all of my issue, and I just kept hearing this guy just going, and he was in a bad situation. And I remember his name was Bob Roll. And I to this day don't even know what he looks like, because the times that I saw him
Yeah.
walk, it was just like kind of flashing by to get some help or whatever. But this dude Bob Rowe, man, was going through such a crazy moment, and I'll apologize in advance if I get misty because this is fresh.
Yeah.
And if I lose it a little bit, it's only because just remembering this stuff, it's really, it's impactful to me alone, just knowing where I started and how I'm right here now.
Yeah.
And I was laying in bed, and my wife was there, and this dude Bob he was in agony. Like, I knew I was bad, but I'm like, dude sounds like he's way worse than I'm doing. And at some point, I don't know, something came over me that I was like, Bob, you're gonna be fine, bro. Like, hey, what's up? Like, kind of talking to him like my wife had talked to me, like kind of calming me down. And I was like, bro, you're gonna be fine. And at one point, Bob, across the curtain, goes, man, I'm having a hard time, and the devil's fighting me right now, and he's winning.
Wow.
And at that point, I was like, whoa.
Wow. So
That's
that's when God
intense.
kind of kicked in right there. Like he's kind of.
I told my wife, I'm like, dude, I was like, Bob, you're not alone. I'm like, dude, we're here.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen, bro. He's not gonna win. And the craziest thing is, I popped up a song that's really personal to me, man. One of my, it's one of my favorite songs now, is "The Goodness of God." I know you guys have heard it. "The Goodness of God" is a really cool song. The crazy part of that song is that the first time I ever heard it, the first time I ever listened to that song, I mean, I played in church all of my life, and for the past 20 years, I played at a black church, so we didn't sing that song. That's considered white church music. If you know, you know. No, so "The Goodness of God" is always a song that kind of brings me relief, because the very first time I heard that song, I learned it on the way to a rehearsal for my brother's funeral. And it was in Spanish. So my brother Homer, who was my biggest hero growing up, who I saw playing drums, and I saw him
Yeah.
minister at church all his life, in 2020 he suddenly passed away. And it was the most shocking thing we had ever dealt with, like collectively in our family. There's never been anything that intense. And my mom losing her first son, and it was hardcore. He was like my second dad. When my dad was out doing evangelism and doing missionary work, it was like my mom and then Homer, and then one day he just disappeared. So the day that I had to go play at his funeral, one of the songs was "The Goodness of God," and I at that moment, it was just one of those things that I had to learn. Like, I had to hurry up and learn it. It was the first time I heard it, and I had a few hours before I had to perform it.
Yeah.
And I learned it, and then one day I walk into Bridges, and they needed a bass player. And I grabbed,
Yeah.
somehow I ended up playing bass just to fill in. And that was one of the first songs. And when I heard that song, it killed me. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it broke me. Because then I was like, that song is the song I had to learn. And so I have a lot of personal connection. I mean, everything I
song.
do, everything
Yeah.
I do is music related. Music's always going to drive me somehow. I mean, I'm sure it happens to everybody, where a specific song maybe reminds you of the first time you dated, or it reminds you of a bad moment or whatever. In my case, being in the music ministry all my life, there's always songs that kind of drive me in a certain direction, or in the right direction rather. And so I was like, that song always helps me. Let me play it. So I played it on my phone, and Irma and I, we started praying for Bob Roll.
Wow.
And I was in the midst of the most
While you're going
hardcore-
through pain, and I don't know if y'all remember this, but Rick, it's like we knew you went away, but it's like we didn't hear from you for about a week, and then you start putting these pictures on social media of you laid up in the hospital, and I'm like, I called Joseph immediately, like, what is going on? And we began to pray for you, and then I remember when I came, and I can testify what Irma said, when I walked in and saw you for the first time, it's like, he's got this cool tan going on right now, but he was like white as this paper. When I saw him, I'm like, oh, and I'm going there to pray for him, but it's like, oh, is he going to make it? And so just being real, but the pain, he was up under so much pain, he was shaking. And it's like, oh my God, this is real.
It was hardcore. I remember they shot me up with the fentanyl. I remember that clearly because I had been watching the news a lot. I'm like, wait, what? No. So shot me up with
hold
fentanyl.
up.
I was like, wait a minute.
Stop that order now.
Yeah. So it was like really painful. It was very distressing too. It was putting me in a place where I was kind of literally like losing my mind a bit. But I've always felt, and my mom and my dad, they're prayer warriors. Mi mamá se despierta orando y se duerme. Like she wakes up praying and she goes to bed praying.
Wow.
And everything, my parents are prayer warriors, man. That's one thing I know. My mom and my dad, I've never been a dude that, I've never been afraid to cry in front of, some people grew up with that, men don't cry. My dad, no way. I've seen my dad in the corner, in the room on his knees crying to God. And I'm like, that's a dude.
Yeah.
My mom, the same thing. These are prayer warriors, man. So I always believe in that. I always believe that, dude, just leave it in God's hands.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I'm thinking, that dude is bad. Like, I'm in bad shape, but there was a situation where they'd given him so much medication that legally they couldn't give him more, and he was in agony. So I was like, let's pray. Yeah. And Irma and I, we just started praying for him, and it kind of helped out. But I felt like, well, man, I've always been the person that says, like, if you think you're bad, somebody's doing worse. And at that moment, I was living that moment, man. It was a journey where I was like having to live the things that I had been telling people. So I'm like, okay, that guy's in bad shape. Let's help him out. I can't do anything. I mean, we're in the hospital. This is where they're gonna fix him, but it's not working. So we were being a bridge at that moment. I'm like, we're being a bridge for this guy.
Yeah.
Let's pray for the
midst of
dude.
your pain and your struggle.
Yeah.
Reaching out to somebody
So that was one moment where it was like, it even gave me peace as well. And then the nurses came in, and he was a little bit more, he was calmer, and eventually we ended up having to leave. They wanted to give me emergency back surgery there, but we ended up getting a rental. We come back home, and at some point on the way home, I'm like, man, I think I'm gonna be fine. Let's go let's go home.
Yeah.
And
still fighting it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, give it a few days, and then if it gets worse, let's go back. That's my planning guy. Like, I have my plans. This is my schedule. This is how things are going to work, because this is what I do on a daily basis for somebody else, and it always works. So I'm making my plan, and we finally make it home. And I remember it was a Sunday. I couldn't make it to church. I thought, hey, I'm going to go to church on Sunday. It's all good. I couldn't even move. It was incredibly crazy pain. I remember Joe showed up after service. I texted you, and I was like, I can't make it. Ended up at the hospital, and the pain was so unbearable. They shot me up with all sorts of things, and they're like, yeah, you need to they got me a room. And the day that the surgeon came by, he's like, oh my God, dude, we got to get you in there. He said, literally, your disc exploded in your back. And I had no idea what that meant, but I was like, what? Yeah. It's like, yeah, we wait any longer, you're going to be paralyzed. You're risking being paralyzed and maybe not walking anymore. So in my mind, that idea of I'll do it in January was gone. So I have my plans, right? And then at that point, I remember I was like, man, I got to deliver some bad news for my parents. We're barely coming out. You know, it's fresh. 2000 seems
Yeah.
like a long time ago, but when somebody like your brother passes away or your kid in my parents' situation, it's fresh. It's fresh. And so I'm thinking, man, I'm going to give my parents this bad news. But it's got to get done. So I was sad, and I call my parents. My dad answers, and I'm like, Dad, they're gonna give me back surgery. I have to get in there. And of course, when you call somebody, what you're expecting is them for to be like empathetic and have some sympathy and ay, mijo, or My dad was like, "Ah, that's great, mijo, that's awesome." I was like, "What?" My dad was, "No, qué bueno que te van a operar, vas a quedar mejor y eso es lo que necesitas." And I'm like, wait, dude, did you hear what I said? Because I'm thinking my parents are going to be like, oh, my God. And I'm like, my mom's going to be in shock. And they were both on the same page. They were like, oh, that's great. So my dad was, while I was feeling that he was being dismissive, my dad was really feeding me what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think we surround ourselves with people that tell us what we need to hear, or they rub you on your shoulder and they're like, it's going to be fine. And it's counterproductive.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I had with my brother Homer. He was really... I always felt like he was being dismissive about things, but his answer was always like, oh, we're going to pray, man. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I remember I would call him, and I'd be like, dude, I'm calling you because you're my older brother, and that's who I always confide in first. And he was always like that. He was like, nah, man, you're going to be fine. I remember I had an issue with Irma once, a health thing, and I called him, and I was crying, and he's like, don't worry, bro. And it was the same thing. Like,
Always feeding you faith.
Yeah, it was
always,
like,
yeah.
But not in a way where it's like nothing's gonna happen. You're gonna be fine. Because a lot of times the church feeds you that. That the whole God's gonna make a miracle and it's gonna be. It's like, well, you don't really want to say that all the time. You want to be positive, but you got to tread lightly sometimes, because we don't know what the plan of God is. We don't know what He's got in line. We might say, well, we want you to be. There's gonna be a miracle and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And that's not the approach my parents have. They're always like, God has a plan for you. You need to go through this kind of like an overhaul of your body so that you're ready for the next level. It's kind of like what my dad was saying. Well, I'm sitting there thinking, Dad, they're gonna
cut me open.
Yeah, like, dude, I could be paralyzed. And so my dad, he was, that was the one thing that I remember that at first I was like, well, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But it made sense in the long run. It all made sense. So
and just to touch on that, because a lot of times, and I understand what you're saying, is like, and we just sang about it earlier too, how God's our healer, but sometimes God will walk out healing a totally different way than what we expected. Amen. And it's one of those things, because I remember going, praying with you before you had the surgery, and it's like, you want to pray for God to heal and bring the miracle, and nothing is wrong with that, but there could be an understanding this is part of the miracle, going through the surgery and submitting in the midst of that to doctors to cut you open in your back, and knowing that that's going to slow you down, knowing you're gonna have a little recovery time, and you guys remember seeing Rick walk through here with this cane and dropped a lot of weight, but still moving forward. So you had to make that decision. Okay, God, I'm gonna trust you in this process. I'm gonna trust you in healing my back, and it just so happens to be part of your plan to heal me is for me to submit to these doctors to go through surgery. So Rick, tell us, was that a struggle at all, trying to submit to, like, what were any worries that came up in your mind about going through this surgery?
Well, at first it was the whole, I think I can do this, strong old Rick. I've been through worse. I'm always the guy that's gonna be like, I've done more with less. I've done more with less of a back. Not that time, but I was, so it wasn't necessarily a struggle of like, it was more of a struggle against my own plan, like what I wanted to do or what I thought I was gonna, the way things were gonna turn out.
Yeah.
So when the doctor says, the surgeon tells me like, dude, you got to get in there, and then it changes into the fear of like, oh my God, I'm going into some major surgery, and now, you know, I hope my parents don't have to go through another situation like they did with my dad and my brother, where
yeah,
where
that's
they
real.
lost. Now they're gonna lose another kid, and so it
Yeah.
becomes crazy. But once they wheeled me in to the operating room, I saw the screens, and in the screens, it looked like it was my back, my spinal cord, and then a blob, like you know, like a tie-dye
Yeah.
had just exploded in my back, and I'm like, okay, this is serious.
This is it. Yeah.
And so I went in, and things, you know, surgery went well, and I was good. I called my parents, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with that. And so we head home, and we start the recovery process. And once I'm home, and it's like time to recover, my wife's like, hey, you got to take it easy. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, cool. Next week, I should be better. I should be able to, okay.
Yeah,
You know, I've
yeah.
got all these plans now. It's like, okay, so it was November. And I remember it was a day before Thanksgiving that I got released from the hospital. I'm like, yes, I'm going to go eat Thanksgiving dinner at home and not in
Yeah.
this hospital bed. So I'm doing Thanksgiving. I could barely move. I was in a walker. I was the most active person that you've seen now is slowed down to,
Yeah.
I can't even move in a walker.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be how many months? All right, I got a couple weeks before I have to fly to San Antonio for an award show and do a red carpet. And then a week after that is I've got a client that's going to the Latin Grammy. So, okay, I need to fly to San Antonio, and then I come back, and then how am I going to, okay, am I going to be cool to fly to Vegas
Yeah.
to the
You're
Grammys?
Still planning out.
I'm planning all these things, and they don't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I can't. Everybody's like, well, once you get here, we're going to have this team. They're going to move you. And then I'm like, man, I really can't even go to the restroom, bro. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be able to hop on a plane and sit there. Like, really, it takes me time. Like, okay, I think I might have to go to the restroom here in about 10 minutes. So let me start making my way now.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I'm not going to go to no awards. So I was bummed out, and I would sit in my backyard, and I would just chill there. And I was sad, and it was like, man, I have all these great plans, and now I can't move. And not really questioning God, but just kind of be like, well, something's up, you know?
Yeah.
I have to just go with it, you know, just go with it. And thinking about ball roll, and like, dude, that dude was doing bad.
Yeah.
Let me just chill here for a little bit. So
And Rick, in that moment, because you've gone through surgery, now you're in this healing process. What were some of the things God was doing in you to keep you moving forward, or what were some of the things you were doing to keep your spirits up, keep your mental capacity in a good spot?
well, I think my wife helped a lot, because I would go into
You
these
think?
modes.
I bet she did.
Oh boy. Oh boy. What
I'm
did you
sure
just
she
you see the
did.
position you
Yeah.
just put me in? No, so I would be laying in bed, I couldn't move, and it was painful. It was painful mentally and physically, and I would go through these bouts, and I'm a strong-minded person. I'm really faithful, and I'm like, everything's gonna be good. But I didn't realize that in some of those moments that I was feeling down, that was really depression.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bad stigma with depression where you think that, oh, that only happens to these people, or those only happen. It's like, no, or Christians don't go through depression. It's like, dude, one thing that I have a really open relationship with my parents, and I talk to my dad all the time. And I remember one time I was my dad and I sometimes get into these, not arguments, but we get into these, you know, we're really strong dudes and
Yeah.
about our feelings. So we go into these clashes, and then everything's cool, but we at least get what we're feeling out. And I remember one day my dad was going through a moment where he was having a tough time with whatever he was doing. And I remember I sat down and I told him, Dad, what you're failing to realize here is that the fact that we're Christian doesn't omit the fact that we're human. And I think that's a misconception a lot in the church, in the evangelical church. It's like, well, you're a Christian, so you got to do this, or you got to
Yeah.
live through it, or it's like, no, man, I am human.
Yeah. So you're feeling
O sea,
all
el hecho de
those.
ser cristiano no te quita el hecho de ser un humano. Like, being human is real. Like, we are still human beings. We're going to go through depression. We're going to go through like tough mental battles. And that's where all these other things that, you know, you learn growing up in church, that's where that applies. So part of that was me realizing, like, okay, I'm human, bro. Like, I can't do this
Yeah,
alone. I got to
yeah.
just keep trusting God. And so that whole moment was getting better. The situation was getting better, and then I started thinking, okay, cool. I didn't make these awards, but my boss Raul Malo is gonna have a tour. It's a really, really important tour, and they just got a brand new bus.
Yeah.
And so the manager hits me up. He's like, "Hey, dude, you're gonna love this new bus. It's great." So I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna be fine in about a month. I'll be able to hop on that bus. Still thinking, like, dude, I got all these plans. Then one night I started getting these crazy pains into December. It hadn't been a month, and it was getting into late December, and I started ignoring them, and it was a little twitch in my back and like behind my shoulder blade. It was a little twitch, and it hurt, and it got bad to the point where I ended up at the ER a couple times, and they kept writing it off as like something that had to do with my surgery.
the surgery,
And I was like, I know my body. This isn't right. Like something's up. And the frustration of having to be told nothing's wrong, and you go back, and it just kind of was discouraging. But eventually I ended up in the ER, and they're like, you need to go to your surgeon and have him check you out. Well, I go to my surgeon, and thinking it's just going to be like a muscle or whatever, like something light. And they're like, nope, it looks like you need neck surgery.
Wow.
And I'm like, what?
Wow. Now, this has gone from, that's,
Yeah.
when he said that, now you're still dealing with recovery. And y'all remember, like, Rick was walking and going to some physical therapy. And I remember when I found out about the new surgery, I'm like, God, really? So when you got that information, you're going to have neck surgery. And I want you to tell the people, Rick, like the details of what that surgery was going to be like.
So the surgery was, it was intense already because I had the back thing. But this time, the neck surgery was going to fix a couple of, they were going to remove the disc also in my neck. But they had to go up through the front of my throat, like through my throat, which to me freaked me out.
And they were going to move your vocal cord.
They were going to move my vocal cords out of the way just to get to, the disc that they were going to remove and replace with hardware. And my first thing was, well, what am I looking at? What could possibly be some side effects? What could go wrong? And the nurse says, well, I know you're in the music business. Do you sing? I'm like, no, I'm not a singer. She's like, well, because you could possibly lose your voice. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So those sort of things, not only that, I was scared because they're going in through my neck now.
Yeah.
And I've heard all these horror things, and I remember the moments that I would that helped me kind of get better were kind of hanging out with my brother and doing family things where I couldn't move, but I would have, you guys know my nephew who I literally compared to a Tasmanian devil on the Looney Tunes commercials. He kind of resembles him sometimes too, but like my nephew Elijah and then my nephew Josiah, and I would see them, and I'm like, well, like, just feed off of their good energy,
Yeah.
the young. I always feed off of the young people and the respect, the energy and the knowledge, and so those sort of things kind of helped me help me mentally,
Yeah.
at least having them around and seeing them laugh and messing around. So I drive to my brother's house, and I'm like, dude, this is gonna happen, and it
Yeah.
freaks us all out because we grew up watching sports, so we know that neck surgery in the sports arena it's hardcore.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes don't come back from that. So I have a talk with my brother, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, to add to all of this, I can't move my arm. Everything hurts.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of wondering, like, man, did I pick, like, is it possible that God possibly gave me something that I kind of grabbed and ran with and I shouldn't have?
Yeah.
I'm kind of questioning, like, dude, all these plans I have with the music business and me and personal, goals that I have I have planned all these things and now they're not happening.
So you're, and so to speak, you're kind of questioning
Yeah.
your calling, what God has gifted you to do, because you're going through so much. And I think sometimes the devil, have you ever been in a situation where you thought you were going through something because it was your own fault? Or maybe, one of the things is maybe you opened up a door to the devil. You ever heard that one? And you need to go back and retrace your steps and make sure you haven't opened up any doors. And I think the enemy plays mind games when we're going through something. And, Rick, there you were going through a surgery, coming up recovery from that, but then you get faced, not even healed from the first one. Now you've got another major surgery coming up. And so tell us a little bit about the moments that you had in those dark places, because even after going and I don't know if you guys kept up with him on social media, but that was, I think do we have a picture of him recovery after that? Like, that was him still. He's got those glasses. He's never going to get rid of those glasses. He's got those glasses. But that's after that neck surgery where they went in, moved your esophagus, went through your neck. And even, and I'll be honest too, when I heard that, when Joseph told me that, I'm like, what? I'm like, I kind of got mad at God. I'm sure you probably questioned God, but it's like, God, really? Like, we just ramped up prayers for this back surgery, and now we've got to go through this again. And, I had all kind of things like, God, I'm talking to Joseph like, man, they got to do what? And going through that, Rick, and just being incapacitated. You told me about some dark moments you hit and how you really had to stretch out towards God. Tell us a little bit about those times.
So the surgery happens, everything's cool. I'm sent home, but now I'm kind of, when people would see me, they're like, man, you look like you just got out of a really bad accident, like a car accident. Yeah. So everybody was expecting this crazy freak accident. But honestly, I think that this whole process was to build me into the character that I had to be now. Yeah. Like my dad said, like you can't present yourself like that and sell success. I'm in the business of selling success. And one thing as a kid that my dad instilled in my mind was, he said, mijo, tú no puedes vender el éxito si primero no demuestras que lo tienes. That means you can't sell success if you don't exude it. If you don't look like success, nobody's going to believe you. So that, it's a thing that I always, it's been in my mind. And so that starts kicking in. And I'm laying in my bed. Now I can't move. I can't even turn. I can't twist. I can't turn. So I'm like a robot, like I'm in a box. And things started getting really dark. Yeah. Things started getting dark where I'm like, man, is it possible that God gave me this ball to play with and I was supposed to just kind of toss it around and then, carry on with life? But I thought, oh my God, God gave me a talent, so I built a team, Yeah, it's like a franchise. So that was, I talked to my brother, he's like, nah, man, I don't think God would do that. I'm like, would God possibly put me in a place where I would confuse myself into thinking that I was talented and this was my career and that I chose the wrong thing? And so those kind of things happened. Then it started getting really dark, and it was during the cold season. So it's freezing cold outside. Nobody's out. I have no contact. I mean, for many months, my only contact was my wife and my family, my nephews and my brother and his wife. And so it started getting dark, and my wife would start taking me out into like, well, you got to get out, And she knew what was up. I wasn't aware. But the one thing that I remember is that I grew up being in the music ministry. So either I was a music director, I was a praise and worship leader, I was something at some point in my life when I was younger, and those things started coming back. So this is where it gets rough. Yeah. So I felt like for all these years, the times that I was on, at the sanctuary, singing to people and telling them things were going to be fine, and singing songs, because the important thing about praise and worship people, like when you see them up here, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but really when they're up here, they're doing they're commissioned by God to do a service, and that's to kind of uplift His name and uplift whoever's coming in with a bad vibe, or you're dealing with some personal issues. And I felt like for many years, it went from me thinking like, man, every time I was up on that stage singing to God, somebody was always in the bench kind of criticizing, or why is that guy doing that, or why, and it was always like that crossroads between what he works in the music business and, they call it secular music. So how can he be of service to God? He's out there at doing theater shows or whatever. Even sometimes they're at bars, or this is a bar, But that was the stigma. But at that moment, I would lay in bed and I would just start remembering the moments that I was telling people. I was telling people, hey, things are going to be all right, or this is a song that that helps me, and all the songs, and I put it in my notes, los cantos que yo cantaba para otras personas ahora me estaban administrando a mí. So that means the songs that I would sing for other people were now being ministry. They were ministering to me now.
Yeah.
So when I would tell somebody something now, it was like I was taking my own word now.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I would listen to a song that maybe I was playing in the late 90s in all that, all these songs in Spanish, and they were like, and they would play, and I would remember one, and I would look it up, and they would start playing, and I would just lay there, and my wife would show up sometimes, and I'd be crying, and she's like, "What's this about?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm grateful, I'm alive."
Yeah.
So then this, gratitude was always there. There was never a moment when I was like questioning God or saying, "Man, God, what happened?" or "Why is this happening?" or "Why me?" It was mostly like, "Thank you, God, because I have health insurance."
Yeah.
I could get, this thing was expensive. I'm like, I've got 2 major surgeries back to back, and I'm not worried about the finances.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, man, it's freezing cold. There was that deep freeze that happened where everybody lost their power.
Yeah.
It was pretty hardcore, and I was like, well, we have shelter.
Yeah.
I'm warm. I'm not out there like the homeless cats that,
Yeah.
those guys need some major help, man. I'm like, so I always thought there's somebody else in a worse position than I am. And so the music that I would remember were songs that I was, that I would always use in ministry when I was singing at church. And so that's what, so I would lay there, and the nights were long, bro. Like, it was long. It was intense, because I would go to bed, and I would lay there, and the meds wouldn't kick in, and I was really careful with like the medication that I would take, because I didn't want to get, have any issues with that. So I would lay there, and I remember that there's a little crack over my window where the curtain was moved, and there's a little crack, and as soon as there was light, I was like, thank you, God, I made it through another day.
Wow.
Like, that's how intense it was, because it was painful. Like, now my entire body was hurting. I couldn't move. And all we did was the whole time was just thank God. And I remember that there were moments when my arm was just like, it was terrible. It was in so much pain that I would sit there in the bed, and I would just sit like this. And my wife would get up because she would feel the bed moving, and she would just sit there, and she'd be on the floor, and we'd just hug. And I was really, I would just cry, because I was like, God, I'm not being ungrateful. Like, dude, I'm sorry that I'm asking you for more strength, but and it's that song that Patrick just sang earlier. It was like, I'm not here to ask you for anything. All I'm saying is like, dude, just continue to give me strength.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anything. I don't want to, I know I have to go through this process.
Yeah.
Because I get into those modes where it's like, well, and you remember those characters in the Bible where there was like those 3 guys that got thrown into the furnace.
Yeah.
And they didn't burn. And there was that one dude that got thrown into a lion's den, and he made it.
Yeah.
And then there was another dude who lost his entire family and was sitting there, and then he made it, So it's like, God has done more with less. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm fine. But I would sit there and I would be crying, because I was like, man, I'm sorry, God. Like, I don't want to be ungrateful, but this hurts. Like,
hurts,
it hurts, bro. So those moments, those are like the struggles. But the music somehow, I would remember a song and I'd play it, and I was sure enough it would hit me. And then I was able to start working a little bit more. And my bosses were like, dude, I've never heard anybody say, I need to work to feel normal. So I would call my bosses where I'd take some time off, and I'm like, no, you guys don't understand that me doing some work is the only normal thing I can do right now.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing, and I work in the music business, so I was going through a lot, man. It was heavy. And then I would talk to my parents. My parents were always like, hey, we're good. You're going to be fine. Look at the side, look at you. You're going to come out of this, and God's going to put you in the place that you need to be. Because a lot of times we want to do things our way.
Yeah.
And we want to surround ourselves with people that egg us on. And that's cool and all, but a lot of times God's going to have a plan that's greater than whatever you're planning. And it's going to supersede anything that you're doing. And sometimes us getting in the way, for instance, I'm like, I couldn't question God why I was going through the surgery, because I had made myself neglect that part of my back for so long, thinking I've made it this long, a few more months, I'll be fine. But it was like my dad said, it was like, dude, you got to go through this. You got to go through the fire. You can't go to your next level in the condition you're in. And sure enough, he was right, because, I was out of shape. I was looking bad. I had gained like 20 to 30 pounds from that COVID era that I never, worried about getting rid of. And it was just bad. I just didn't look like what I was selling anymore.
Yeah.
It didn't look like success. I'd walk around and I was like overweight and kind of sweating my way through things. And it was like, oh, that's not a good look for, a successful manager. But I didn't think about those things until I was going through the fire.
Yeah.
So one day, my job in one of my projects is I grab these codes and I go into a digital platform to play music. So I get these sheets and it's a bunch of codes, and the codes you drop into the digital platform to just listen to them and make sure it's not noise, or just to make sure it's a legit song. And a lot of times I find a lot of crazy cool music, and for the most part I have to identify it. And it's usually the right thing. So I'm sitting there, and one day I am like broken. I'm literally just broken. I have no strength. I have to move. I have to find something like to get me going, because I'm like, man, my wife can't be the only one egging me on. I have to do something myself. And the pain was terrible. I knew I couldn't take any more meds until a certain amount of hours. So I'm sitting there and I said, well, you know what? I'm going to get up and do some work. So I get in my walker. I can barely move. And I'm thinking about all these things that I haven't been able to do, that I planned this whole year, and to wrap that year, it was going to be this big, huge thing, and I hadn't done any of those. So I was struggling with a lot of the mental stuff, but physically more than anything, I couldn't move. So one day I get up, and my wife's doing something in another room, and I kind of, I make my way to the table where I have my laptop, my computer, and my equipment, and I start working on the song. So I grab a code, dump it in the DSP, listen to it, and keep going. And that's kind of waking me up or whatever. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm really, really in so much pain that I'm just sitting there, just kind of like barely being able to move. And so at one point, I grab a code and I dump it in there, and the music starts playing. And it's like it's a riff, and it's kind of familiar. And I'm like, and then the dude starts administering, right? And I'm like, oh wow, that's a Christian song. This sounds very familiar. And as I'm gonna go this way for a second, as I am dumping the codes in there. I'm broken. I'm in so much pain. Not in any moment have I chosen to give up, because that's just not in me. So, with the help of Patrick's guitar here, I'll try to just to give you a snippet of how it was, just so you can get an idea of what it felt like. Is this thing on? Thank you for coming. No. So I'm sitting there, right? And I grab this code, thinking it's a different song, and I dump it in there, and the music starts playing, the riff starts playing, and a song, then a dude starts administering, right? He starts talking behind the music, and the song kicks in, and it goes like this. And I've heard this song before because I have played it. I played it at church many times, at the Black Church. And it goes, my God is awesome. He can move mountains, keep me in the valley, and hide me from the rain. That kicks in. All right, so that kicks in, and I'm sitting there. I'm sitting like this. And at that moment, it was like a movie was playing in my mind of that time that I was sitting at church playing the keyboard, telling people, like, dude, everything's gonna be all right. Yeah, and so that's happening. I'm like, it's flashing through my eyes, and I'm like, oh wow, that's what? And something is just kind of taking over me, and this is a moment when I'm in pain, I can't move, I'm not giving up, but I'm also like, bro, I need some help, man. Like, God, I need some strength. So then this next part surprisingly kicks in. This is where I was like, what? Whoa, what's going on, right? My God is awesome. Heals me when I'm broken. Gives me strength when I am weak. And forever he shall reign. And when that happens, bro, it's over. It's over. I felt like I was like, whoa. With that moment, I was like, I don't know what happened, but at that moment, something just took over me. And I was like, that's right. I was like, God has done more with less. Like, dude. And when that happens, that song just took over me. And I remember that was the point that I just put my hands on my head and I just surrendered. And I was like, you're right. You're right. And that moment was like,
Keep the guitar, man. I think you need to sing the song. I think you need to.
I don't know the rest of the lyric off my top
I
of
think
my
you
head.
need to
but
sing that again, because in that
Yeah.
moment you said that's when God kind of
yes,
broke
so
through.
I'm sitting there and it's telling me, he gives me strength, you know, where I'm broken. Like the part that hurts, it's like, dude, don't worry, it's gonna be cool. And it's like a lot of people constantly are looking for signs. You're looking for the great sign. And it was like the music was there. It was telling me, like, you don't need God to open the heavens and talk to you and say, hey, with that voice from her. You know, it's like, that's not what it's about. And I felt like that moment, I was like, bro, my wife came out and I was just sobbing.
Wow.
And I just surrendered. I gave up. And she was like, are you all right? I'm like, yes, it's this. And that song just played, I just looped it for like almost an hour.
Yeah.
It just kept going. And I felt walking around, I felt like I was just doing more.
Yeah.
I felt like, man, that's right.
This is
Like,
it. Yeah.
dude, he's done more with less. Like,
Yeah.
and then all these things started popping, like these characters, like,
Yeah.
you know. But I had to go through this, and when that song kicked in, it just, that was it.
Amazing.
And it was just keeps looping into my God is awesome, our God is awesome, and our God is awesome. And I'm like, wow, you're right.
Sing that portion again, Rick. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Because that's how God brought healing into you. And this is, the journey's not over. You're still on this healing journey.
It's a long
Y'all
way to
give
go.
him a hand clap. Come on. I mean, Rick's been through a lot, and he's still, I just remember seeing moments we hadn't seen you in a while. We're still checking in
there's
with you,
me.
but then you walked in and you was on the walker. Then you went to the cane, and then today he walked up on the stage without the assistance of a cane and a walker.
Yeah, and there were moments when I was, you know, I remember the first time I came to church. I
Yeah.
came to service. And for a long time, I don't know if you guys saw me with my little T-Rex arm. I couldn't move it because of the surgery. I couldn't extend it. So that was another thing that really got to me, because first, I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to have these surgeries. I can sit at home, just kind of fiddle around and
Yeah.
doodle with my guitar, with my keyboard. And music has always been the thing that
You couldn't
saves
do
me.
none of that.
And I could do it, and I couldn't move my arm. I couldn't move it. And I remember I came to church the first time, and Delaney and Patrick were singing a really, really awesome song. And I just walked in, and I was like, dude, it just took over me. And those were the normal moments, like coming to church, getting out of the house, coming to church, listening
Yeah.
to. So I'm always like lifting my eyes, and if you ever see me doing this in church, it's because I couldn't do it before. You better bet I'm gonna come and lift my hand every time I come to
Yes.
church now, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't stretch my arm. I couldn't do anything. So there's always a moment in church where I'm like, check this out, God, thank you.
Yes.
And that was kind of the process when I was like going through it, right? I remember I had my walker, and I would wake up and go to the restroom down this little hall, and I'd go to the restroom. I'm like, oh, God, thank you. Thank you for relief was my daily thing. Like, oh, thank you, God.
Yeah.
One more day. Thank you for relief. And every day it got better and better. So first it was like, okay, I could get through with the walker. Then it was like, I don't need the walker. And then it was like, I got a cane. And then it was just gradually getting better.
Wow.
And I was like, man, cool. So I remember the first time that I came to church and I could lift my hand.
Yeah.
And the first time that I could clap. I
Wow.
couldn't clap because I would clap with my wife.
hands, yeah.
My wife and I would teamwork the clap.
There you go. Irma,
So-
bringing up the rear. There you go. Love
So
it.
those were the moments where like church and music, like the whole music thing, always drove me back. It always
Yeah.
brought me back. And it's kind of like that song they were singing earlier, where it's like, bring me back to where I started.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like I brought me back to where I started, where it was like, dude, you spent so many years kind of worried about everybody else and servicing everybody else.
Yeah.
And you kind of neglected yourself.
Wow.
And we tend to do that a lot. We tend to make sure that we lend we offer a lending hand to somebody, but at the same time, you're neglecting yourself to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that we shouldn't help a brother out or pray for somebody, but sometimes if you worry too much about praying for your neighbor that you forget to pray for yourself. And by the time you pray for your neighbor, that prayer is not going to be as strong as it could have been had you been prepared, had you had your stuff together. And that's how I felt, man. I felt like in the process, through the fire, I had to just let it be.
Refining in you.
Yes.
And retuning in you and re-strengthening in you so that you can carry on the ministry that God has given you. And I believe with all my heart, Rick, this give him another hand clap. This is just, because we can say that, but I don't think there's many people in this room or watching online that face 2 back-to-back major surgeries, except Sarah, right there.
Sorry
all
about
in
the
close
bugs.
proximity of each other. But I want you to close us out in that song, Rick. I'm going to say everybody stand up. We're going to close out, but close us out in that song, Rick.
Yep.
And then I'll lead them in prayer, and then we'll be dismissed. Go ahead.
My God is awesome. He can move mountains, keep me in the valley, and hide me from the rain. My God is awesome. He heals me when I'm broken, gives me strength when I am weak, and forever He shall reign. So just say, my God is awesome, 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 awesome. My God is awesome. He's awesome. If you believe He's awesome, just let Him know. There aren't really too many lyrics to this. It's not hard. You don't need a phone book. You don't need a songbook for this one. If He's done something that's worth saying He's awesome, if He's done something for you to say, hey man, thanks a lot, God. If there's something that you've gone through that you know you were doing a lot worse yesterday, but now you're here, now just say, my God is awesome, awesome. Awesome, awesome, my God is awesome, awesome, He's awesome, awesome. And I'll tell you what, for some people it might be like, oh, well, I've gone through surgery too, big deal. Or I've gone through that, or I've been through worse. Yeah, that's good. You know what? You better be telling God that you're thankful for that. Because if you've been in a place that's been worse than what I've been through, oh my God, I applaud you for making it. If you felt worse than I felt in the past few months, oh my God, you better be lifting your hands and telling God, thank you, bro, because I am here. Because I'll tell you what, 7 months ago, I couldn't even walk in this place by myself. 2 months ago, I couldn't even play this guitar. 5 months ago, I thought I was going to lose my voice and not be able to do this ever again. I was afraid. But here I am, and I'm happy to report that last weekend I took my first business trip. I got on my first flight in 7 months. I got on that tour bus after 7 months. And I made it back, and today I'm here to tell you about my story, because God is awesome. And if you believe it, tell what's up. Somebody make some noise. Believe He's awesome. Let's do it one more time. Oh, my God is awesome. He's awesome. 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 This has been awesome to be with you guys today. I hope it helps somebody. But it's been really awesome to just lean on God and let Him do His thing.